Welcome everybody back to another episode of Plug Talk Sports. I'm joined with, as always, Jonka, myself, Brandon, and no Daniel today. Hopefully everything's okay with him. I know he's dealing with some things, but either way, the show goes on. The show goes on, and as usual, let's start off with the best or worst things of this week. Jonka, which one do you want to go first with?
Man, to be honest, we'll get the bad out of the way. We'll get the bad.
Okay.
The worst would have to be. We'll talk about it maybe later in the show, but it would have to be playing terrible in that very last game.
That was tough.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
But I suffered too much.
Yeah, I mean that was tough. Plus, not even that. I mean, I know we're gonna talk about later on the show, but I actually brought my dad to that game too, which I'm here for Thanksgiving, and that was I don't even know what to say. I mean, that was senior day, but we'll go into that later on when we talk about college football. For me personally, I would say the worst thing I would have to say, kind of weird, but I got drug tested today for like this job that I'm applying for, right? So they're asking like, oh, you just need to do this, piss in a cup, this and that. It was a weird experience. I didn't like it at all. I did it in the cup. It went crazy, right? Took a couple of minutes. Super awkward, super weird. Probably the worst way to start on a Monday, if you ask me. But besides that, let's go through that, going down to the best things this week.
Man, I guess I would just have to also mention basketball going 5-1. They beat UCF yesterday, 66-64.
Okay.
They're 5-1 so far right now, so they're playing really well.
So there is something of the Canes are back narrative. There is like a Canes narrative out there.
Hopefully they play well.
Hopefully, I don't know. I mean, you obviously want them to see it in football, but what I would say for me personally, it's got to be the Boston Celtics right now. I mean, the Celtics are on a high all the time, and they're not playing with Jaylen Brown tonight. And somehow, some way, they're still figuring it out. Jason Tatum's on the court, but we're up by almost 30-something points last time I checked against Charlotte. So either way, Celtics are flying high. basketball is back in full force. And speaking of which, of full force, let's talk about the World Cup matchup that we saw. The United States going against England, because that was a defensive force that the United States showed out to absolutely scoreless sheet from both teams, 0-0 draw. America showed a lot of fight in that one, as I mentioned before. Defensively was really strong out there. A couple of crosses in the box for England, headed it away. I mean, we even saw Zimmerman even do a little bit better. Not saying that it I can ignore what we saw from the Wales game when he made that penalty. But, I mean, Jonko, what is your first analysis from that game?
I'm going to be honest. I was impressed by USA in the first half. I felt like in the second half, they kind of took their foot off the pedal a little bit. Like, I don't know how, if you look at it really closely, you can tell that they slowed down. Maybe they put too much effort in the first half and they got tired. But many people are saying that England didn't look that good. Now, let's be honest here. England's previous game was 6-2.
Right.
They played well. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think it was actually England being trash, or they're just having a bad day?
I'm gonna say right now, the Iran team, basically top 20 in the world ranked, right? England beats them 6-2. For the fact that the United States had to do like a 0-0 draw, that just tells you this is a young, United States team that's defensively hungry. I think England did a good job in that game, honestly. I just didn't think that they had enough push in them. But I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, the United States. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna, it's a guarantee they're gonna make out the group, let alone go deep in the tournament. But I think they're a team that you have to look after. This entire group is dangerous.
For USA, because I know tomorrow they play Iran at 2. Everybody on FS1. They gotta win. And we know Iran isn't a bad team.
Right.
And there's no draw. There can't be it has to be a dub. And we're gonna see if the USA actually has a pair of cojones with them tomorrow.
I don't know. They need a straight.
Their backs are officially against the wall. We saw
Yeah.
Argentina on the brink of elimination, and Messi saved them. Now, who's who's it gonna be? Who do you think has to step up for USA to come out victorious?
Um, Out of any of the players on that roster, because I think Christian Pulisic had a pretty good game for himself throughout these first two games in the tournament. I mean, even one was almost a goal against England off the crossbar. And I think
Yeah.
that was what, in the second half or whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Pulisic's been doing pretty well. Adams, as the captain's been doing phenomenal. But one person I would love to see pick up the pace, it's got to be a Dest. It's got to be like these guys that, who we always talk about, playing internationally, Barcelona, whether that be, in La Liga, whether that be in the Premier League with Anderson. Like, you just got to, show out a little bit. The only thing I've seen Dest really do any-wise is get yellow cards. You know what I mean? As weird as
Yeah.
it is, I think the United States, I don't even know what the number is. They have like what, 4 or 5 yellow cards so far throughout this tournament, and it's only been 2 games in the group stage. I mean, I'm not too positive, but either way, I would like to see some more, control from the players of not forcing things. Again, I like the fact that we're aggressive, but you don't want to force it, right? Like what we saw in the Welsh game, where we saw Wales get an easy penalty kick with Gareth Bale, who probably, in my opinion, is the best player in the MLS at the moment. But that'll go into another topic. However, I'm telling you right now, I really do believe that Dest has to pick up like the back. They have to pick it up defensively sometimes, where they have to make sure that they're just being cautious, just a little cautious. That's all they ask for.
Let me see. Just if USA, man, this is so complicated, bro. Like Wales and England play tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If Wales can put up an upset, that puts also a lot of pressure on the USA because if they don't match the same number of point differentials as Wales, they could still end up out.
Yeah, I mean, but not even that. There is also a way for the United States to win the group.
Yeah.
As crazy as it sounds, and most likely I'm going to go with the realistic route. Like if Wales ends up defeating England and then we end up winning off against Iran, we should be able to win the group. However, if they tie Wales and England 0-0, let's say, right, the United States would need to make at least 5 goals. So don't think we're going to win the group, but a win does get us in. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. I mean, we just need to win. And I think we should be able to win.
The goal differential for England is +4, and USA is at 0. So we'd have to score 4. I think we'd have to win 4-0 to tie, and score 5-0 to win, take for first place.
Exactly.
Unless England would have to lose, because then they would go down. Oh well.
Yeah, but now that we're talking about it now, for the United States upcoming game Tuesday, tomorrow, what is your predictions for that one?
Man, to be honest, my brother has been like saying that, "Oh, USA is the team. USA is the team." Now I know he's showing some kind of like patriot pride,
Okay.
but it's just hard. It's hard because you just like the history of this men's this men's team, and you expect failure.
Yeah, but is there going to be? I don't think there will be. I mean, John, what do you think? A close one then, or?
Man, I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
I better hope I'm right, because if not, they're gonna get ripped. I'm telling you, they're gonna get ripped on social media, on TV, everywhere else. USA 2-1 or 3-1. One of those two.
Ooh, 3-1. Okay. I like the second one, 3-1. I find that like interesting though. Because what I think would probably happen, because as I mentioned before, Iran, really phenomenal team. I think that people give them credit for. And then also the United States, only scoring one goal throughout these two games. And mind you, again, this is a more aggressive group that we have with Wales, Iran, England. But I think they go against Iran, and late in the match, you get to see still 0-0. Nothing's really going on. However, possession's going United States' way. I guarantee, 70th minute, we're going to see fireworks explode. It'll be 2-0 United States. That's what I think.
2-0.
2-0. 2-0.
And would 2-0 put them up? Let me see.
Well, it'll put them in, but it wouldn't put them up in the group. I don't expect them to really blow out Iran, as I mentioned before, and also in the last podcast, I think they're a much better group than people think. Definitely a better group than what we see.
That would put them in second.
Yeah. So in second, it's all we need. That's all we need. It's all we need. So I'll be happy with that. And speaking of happy news, especially in South Florida, let's go into our next topic. Still going around soccer. Lionel Messi might be going to Inter Miami. There's reports out there going across the British media, because we do know there was a lot of rumors going around in South Florida way before the MLS season last year. Now there's rumors that seem legit that Inter Miami is closing up on a deal to have Messi to be the highest paid MLS player in history, as he could make his way to the Herons. Now, I don't know exactly what it might look like. I don't have a lot of details. If it's like a 5-year deal, Messi right now is 35 years old, so this could possibly be his last club ever playing for. But I think that just in general, I mean, jersey sales are up right now. I might just go out there get a customized jersey, because this one's got to be in the bag. I mean, he obviously still has that remaining contract with PSG, so he won't be available to play for the Herons until the summer of 2023 if he does decide to sign with us. But John, I mean, what does Messi mean to South Florida? I mean, do you have them is Inter Miami a guarantee for the MLS Cup for a couple of awards at least?
Is Messi guaranteed a cup? That's tough.
I'll put it this way: if Gareth Bale goes to LAFC, right? Wins it his first year, I think that Messi will get the President's Cup, whatever they call it, the little like plate thing for the record. Best record, go through the playoffs, we get the cup easily. That's what I believe. I believe Messi, because you also have to think about it. With the Messi stuff, it's also the LeBron James effect, right? He could bring in other players. And guess what I've seen at the Heat games a lot? Pogba.
Oh.
So imagine that duo. I'm just saying it's possible.
The one thing I know you want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, right now for LAFC, they've been a good team for a while now.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't been. Yes, it was our first year in the playoffs, but we haven't really been a consistently good team. I mean, yes, Messi can show up. Maybe he'll give us some leadership. But like, if you can't surround him with good players, it's not going to be as useful.
Yeah, no, I mean that is true.
I think, I would love to see Messi here, bro. Like I told Daniel, he's summer right now.
Yep.
You have no idea how much I would love him to be here. And then everybody's like saying, "Oh no, it's fake news. It's fake news." It's like, and I told Daniel, "Hey, listen, I have my own delusional bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own delusional bubble." And if I want to believe that Messi's coming to Miami, I will believe Messi's coming to Miami.
He's going to Miami. Best believe. Actually, better yet, he'll be on the Flanagan Cup soon.
Yeah.
He'll be on the Flanagan Cup soon. I guarantee you that.
If Messi's not on every poster, every cartel, every billboard, every TV channel, if he signs here, then these people are retarded. These people
No, they got to get it done. They got to get it done. By the time he signs here, of the all the gyms on 49th Street, everyone's wearing Messi jerseys. Everyone's wearing Messi
Everyone.
jerseys. I mean, not even that. He's already like got that deal with the Hard Rock Stadium. No, my apologies. Hard Rock Casino, like the guitar and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's already got that deal. So yeah, so he has ties. He has ties. But also, staying on the fact though, because we also talked about him just going there. It wouldn't just automatically mean MLS Cup. Then I know that's what you're saying. I know that a lot of people thought with Higuain now, now he's retired, but when he was first on the team, a lot of people thought that Inter Miami, especially with the rest of the roster they had at the time, like Matuidi and also his brother as well, everyone thought that they were like a guaranteed playoff team. And they ended up struggling because he wouldn't even thought that the MLS was going to be much simpler. But it was actually from some reports saying that it was like compared to something in Italy, right? That was much harder. You have to know the league before going into the league. Do you think that Messi, because I know you said that it doesn't guarantee an MLS Cup because of how the team's looking like right now, but do you think that Messi would struggle in the MLS to like start off?
Yes. Okay, depending. It depends when he play. If he were to play, and when the question is when will he play?
Right.
Because they're saying summer of 2023 that he'll be coming in supposedly. But if like let's say that doesn't work out and it's 2024 or 2025, he keeps getting older and older. Like yes, he does stay in shape, but at the same time he does get older and he's not going to be able to play as physical
Right.
as these younger dudes. So what? That's like another reason. Like when we saw Ibrahimovic, like he left. He went to go play back in Europe, but man, I'm just gonna have to say yes, just because he's the goat. To me, he's the goat.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he like just touches a ball there, everything changes in the franchise. That's what I truly do believe. I think that the moment that Messi touches down in Fort Lauderdale, and yes, still Fort Lauderdale until they make that new stadium, but still Fort Lauderdale will have that Miami feel as we get championships back in South Florida. I guarantee that. I
I
guarantee that.
also, I also feel like he would the one thing that I think the team needs. One of the things that the team needs, seriously needs, is playmaking. Because I've been to a couple games, I've watched plenty of the games.
Right?
They don't make plays. Yeah, it was
No,
because of Higuain that he was able to score all those goals. Like you have to just force himself in. But with Messi, he's a playmaker. He likes to pass the ball. So I'm hoping that he can teach these young guys, hey guys, let's do this, this, and this. Well, you teach them how it's played, and then the chemistry, and then like the ball passing, everything will be a nicely tuned machine, which is what we need. Maybe
yeah.
not finely tuned, but better tuned than what it was in recent years.
No, yeah, we needed still a couple of wins, man. But either way, if Messi does touch down, that means South Florida would have the goats in basketball, the goats as well in football, or in other words, soccer, as the United States did against England. But also now going to the football side of things, American football, we now look at the Miami Dolphins, right? And one of the goats in the current time present of wide receivers in the NFL.
Okay, I was about to say.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna say all time, but like actively, he right now one of the best wide receivers out there. Actively looking for a team as well. He was actually seen in Miami getting escorted off a plane. Apparently, he was going to a meeting of some kind, but got escorted off a plane due to his behavior. But besides that, Odell Beckham was in Miami for a reason. Now, we all know that Odell probably has some sort of a party life with him as well as, deals. I mean, his face is basically a brand. But was he possibly going to talk to McDaniel? Was he possibly going to the Dolphins? Was
I
he
know,
going to the Dolphins to add on to a wide receiver group that's probably, in my opinion, the best in the NFL?
I know he was at the Heat game,
Yes. Which
but man,
always correlates, always means something.
I already told Daniel this, that it's like it's funny how everywhere he goes, he has to carry some drama or some baggage with him. There's
Mm.
always something with Odell.
Right.
Like last year, yes, he won the championship with the Rams, but he didn't play that many games. He can't, and then he right now he just tore his ACL. He's been out so far until now, right? The news comes out. He's looking for the Giants or the Cowboys, right?
Right.
It's after Thanksgiving, and now and he's in Miami, and now this breaks out, right? What I want to know is, yes, if he's in Miami, yes, you could look at the Dolphins as a maybe a surprise pick. But if you're serious about the Giants or the Cowboys, and you're getting ready to play, and you just got cleared to play by your doctors,
Right.
why are you in Miami, bro? If you're about the business and if you're trying to win a championship with the Giants or the Cowboys, why are you in Miami? I just feel like he's always doing something extra, something that he's not supposed to do, and then just to cause drama. Which is why I'm like really hesitant on anybody picking him up because like yes he could be a good player when he's healthy, but there's always something with him that he just carries. On the Giants, he's always like having tantrums, and then all of a sudden he gets injured. He's injury prone. Let's all be honest here. He's injury prone.
Right.
He's had two bad torn ACLs in back to back in 2020 and 2022. So, and now this. Listen, whoever picks him up better have him on like on a chain. The same thing with Antonio Brown. Maybe not as bad as Antonio Brown, but keep him in check.
Right. Yeah.
But as for him with the Dolphins, I mean that'd be tough. That'd be
Yeah.
tough.
It will be a good receiving core. And also, I mean, he did make a great point, though, because, I mean, obviously in Cleveland, things didn't work out between him and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. Everyone thought this would be probably the best wide receiver group in not the NFL, but at least in that division. He did not get any targets. He obviously was much more injury prone throughout his entire career, in his later days with the Giants. And now, of course, figuring out a way to get on an NFL team. But if he goes to Miami, though, I mean, I love the group that we have right now. We're obviously on a winning streak. The AFC East is a powerhouse in the NFL for the first time I can say in a long time, right? That includes more than one team this time because what is it? The Jets, Mike White went off, right? And then so we have Mike White, Mac Jones, Josh Allen, and Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, if Odell wants to choose any of those teams to succeed with, it's got to be with Tua. McDaniel's offense for the pass, the play action, it's just phenomenal to see. We see Tyreek Hill breaking records, almost at 2,000 yards. He's on track for it. Jalen Waddle having one of the better seasons he's had so far in his young career, obviously. But I mean, there's guys also on that roster. Like Gesicki's now getting more touches. Smite is getting more touches, both tight ends. Odell Beckham will find the ball if he comes to Miami. And I feel like that's not a fact, but that's more or less the expectation for Odell. Now, with Odell Beckham in Miami, though, we also had to talk about him being escorted off his flight in Miami. Because, again, you talk about his behavior. And this is as weird as it is, because it should have been a bad thing, right? The story should have been Odell Beckham escorted off his flight for behavior, right? But no, we're talking about Odell Beckham. Why is he in Miami? Why is he? So it just tells you that everyone's looking for, to shop Odell, to get Odell on their team, especially, midway through the season where everything counts.
Yeah.
So it just tells you, even though that he does come with some sort of baggage, it also has that factor of, he can really elevate your team to another level. So
What
I think Odell Beckham, he does find a team. I don't know if it's Miami, though.
I don't even know. Have any of the potential landing teams that are trying to go for Odell, have they even given him like a practice or to see how he is?
Like a tryout?
Because with back-to-back torn ACLs,
yeah,
I can't see his speed being as what it once was.
Mm-hmm.
And after back-to-back injuries like that, I mean, he's probably like a hit away from another one. So he has to be his psychological. is like, I guess his psyche must be like on the edge because he knows one more hit, one more bad move,
As
and he's
an
out
early
again.
retirement, basically. You know, and honestly, I thought after winning the Super Bowl with the Rams that he would stay on with Los Angeles.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, not the team you want to go to right now. I think they'll have 3 wins this season. They're probably bottom out of the division out
Yeah,
there in the NFC West.
did they lose last night?
Yep, horribly. Unfortunately for me, a Matthew Stafford guy,
Yeah, he's out.
not the best result. Definitely should have thought of that before paying him off on fantasy football this year. Either way, Odell Beckham has a lot of options. You mentioned before, Cowboys, maybe possibly going back to New York to run it back. Either way, Miami Dolphins, with a couple of rumors, they're in conversation right now. And speaking of conversations, let's go into, because I think this will be a much longer topic of ours, college football. Now, before we go into the updates around the nation, let's just stick home here in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Jonko, you saw the game, I'm pretty sure. It was the worst thing all week that you've seen. Tell me how the Canes did in their last game of the season.
They were atrocious. They looked non-motivated. I gotta call out. I have to call out the OC. Gaddis. Like, bro, you played Pittsburgh. Let me see here. Yeah, you played. My bad.
No issue.
Yeah, you played Pittsburgh, and you lost 42-16. Okay, now let's look at Pittsburgh's previous games. Duke scored 26. North Carolina scored 42. Louisville scored 24. Virginia Tech scored 29. Georgia Tech, who you just beat handedly, scored 26. Rhode Island scored 24.
Man.
Well, that's Tennessee. I'm not going to bring up Tennessee.
Yeah.
But West Virginia scored 31. All those teams, you could argue that you're better than, and they scored more points than you than at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I said this last week on the podcast. What kind of delusional offense is Josh Gaddis running? He doesn't change anything. Tyler Van Dyke starts the game. Boom, bam, boom. He goes, I think, like 73, 74 yards, intercepted. And then all of a sudden, he gets injured. Baya. There you go. They put in Ja'Cory Brown. There goes Ja'Cory Brown. Starts throwing picks and picks and picks. Now he's out. And then they put in Jake Garcia. And then boom, boom, boom. The game ends in a travesty. 42-16. I'm just, I've already officially given up on this season.
Well, it's already over.
Yeah, I know. But how am I gonna say this? I'm just hoping that we get rid of the guys that we don't need. Let's be honest. All the guys that are causing the little blood-sucking viruses that don't want to play for Miami are gone. I just hope they're all gone. Hope they listen to this. If you're listening, I hope you leave. I hope Mario Cristobal can bring in some good transfers. I saw an offensive lineman from Alabama just enter the transfer portal, so I'm hoping we can get him.
Yeah.
And we can get some good recruits in from high school. I forgot when is signing day?
Signing day itself, from what I recall, I believe it's around like January, more or less December, kind of midway through the year. Okay. But expect a lot of signees like around that time period of fall, though. Definitely during the winter, actually.
I'm expecting Mario Cristobal to make a complete. I think I'm expecting a 20+ player hiatus just to go, and then bring in fresh new faces that you look at them next year and you're like, who is this team? You look at them as an away team because
Right.
you know they're your team. You're gonna have to memorize new names, new everything. I think that's something that we need. A completely new team, wipe out. I know some players are gonna stay in that want to play for us. Cam Kitchens, great. I think the number one ranked DB or cornerback in the nation with a 90 overall rating. Crazy. That's something we need. And then with all the recruits that we're supposed to be getting, I'm expecting at least a better season next year than 5-7.
Right. Yeah, because honestly, I was hoping for a bowl game because I actually went to the game, as I mentioned before, with my dad. Like, I'm so sorry. We spent $25. We got 20 rows away from the field, and I didn't even feel like it was actually worth the $25. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a bad performance. And as you mentioned before, the offensive coordinator, no idea what was going on at the beginning of the game. We talk about screen pass after screen pass. And then Brown comes in the game for Van Dyke, who Van Dyke, I think, had like probably the best performance in the entire game. And he
went right down the field.
He went down the field and threw an interception. But Brown's throw, his first drive in this game, threw the ball over every single wide receiver from UM who was doing like curl routes, flat routes, wherever you want to call it. They were about 5 yards away from it at the line of scrimmage. He throws it about 35 yards into double coverage where no one's out there. I think Pitt's playing like a cover man 2 or whatever it is, and only 2 guys are out there to catch that ball. Now,
you can't throw.
You can't throw. And I think that also, because you talk about the offensive coordinator, but the players on the field do win the games. This guy, Brown, Garcia, and Van Dyke, I'm not too positive Van Dyke's going to be returning with their Miami this
I think he's going to transfer.
So, yeah, he'll end up going out. They got to find somebody to – I don't even know if it's from the recruiting because obviously they lost out.
Yeah, we're getting Emory Williams.
Yeah, Emory Williams. I'm hoping that's a name that Cane fans are familiar with, but what I mean, what can you tell us about it? I mean, like, is he like a crazy talent, arm throw, or is he?
I saw comparable stats with Jalen Rashada.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stats were basically kind of even.
Okay, so you're thinking that the Canes are getting another top quarterback back after?
I think we're getting a sleeper quarterback.
Okay, there we go. So Canes getting a sleeper, so that'll be good because honestly, as a Canes fan, I just can't stand it. Like, we talk about Brad Kaya, we talk about Perry, we talk about. I mean, what was the one that we lost against the Gators to start off the year, like 2 years ago or last season?
Malik Rozier? No,
I remember Rozier though. That was a good one. Out of any of them, I will protect that one to the death of me because that was that 2017 team. That one was a fire team. I can't believe I even saw that on the field. Now I'm watching the Canes now. But either way, I have not seen a Canes quarterback that have been confident enough. We talk about the Miami Hurricanes defense, always has some sort of like top prospect, as we do right now.
Yeah.
Especially the guys out there in the D-line. But the offensive side of things, or tight end I want to see a quarterback take a chance on Miami. Rashada obviously didn't want to do that after, unfortunately, the Florida State one, which I still can't believe they own the state at this moment. Hate saying that. But either way, I think if the Canes keep on recruiting, as you said, Jonka, they'll definitely have a new face team and a better team at that. And as I remember us even talking about it before the season even started, looking at the Canes schedule. A game against the Aggies, right? Who are then one of the top teams ranked. A game against Clemson. A game against, Pitt at the end. Whatever it was, there were steps on the road that could have been, Miami has a road to go to the college playoffs or be a top 10 team this year against ranked opponents, despite playing the ACC. Miami has not showcased that they've been able to score on the highest level. They have not been able to showcase that they can perform in the brightest lights. And I thought the worst thing about it especially the way that we ended the season. When I was there, I was watching it. Obviously, senior day is the last game, last home game for a lot of these teams in college football this season. Miami had their senior day on Saturday. No one was in the building. You hear a few claps out there. You had a lot of great guys, especially Mallory, the tight end for the Canes. Probably one of the best players on the offensive roster for them this season. And he was waved goodbye by maybe a few dozen fans. I'll probably put it at that. To see that as the ending for the season was rough. And honestly, if I'm a Canes fan and if I'm anybody in the athletics of Miami, I'll be pissed off and going straight into battle in the offseason early. But to get away from the dark side of things, in other words, Miami football, let's look at the rest of the rankings around the nation right now. So I know we go through the top 25. I got them right in front of my face here. I'm going to go from 25 all the way to number 1 this time. So make it a little anticlimactic. At number 25, we have Mississippi State, 24, North Carolina. And then number 23, we have UTSA, San Antonio. And then we also have UCF in number 22, and they actually won their game against South Florida. One of the best games I've heard in a long time from a lot of people. Got to double check on the highlights there. I suggest everybody out there do that as well, as they'll now be playing for the American in their title game. Number 21, Texas. So they weren't back this year, but they were definitely back in the college rankings. Number 20, South Carolina. Really phenomenal performance against Clemson in the rivalry week matchup. And honestly, definitely a threat in the SEC for later on years. Notre Dame at 19 after their loss against Southern Cal. Tulane at 18. UCLA at number 17. Oregon State at 16 and Oregon at 15. Really weird to see Oregon on top of Oregon there. Kind of odd. Either way, we go on to now 2 state teams. Florida State at number 14 after their win against the Florida Gators at Dokes. And that was a hard game to watch. I think I'll talk about that later on in this episode, to be honest with you. But Florida State at 14, Kansas State at 13, Utah at 12, LSU, they dropped all the way down to number 11, and they were number 5 previously before they lost against the Aggies in Aggieland.
I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they lost.
I don't know, but glad they didn't. I just couldn't stand Brian Kelly somehow making the college playoffs this year. I know he still has a chance in the SEC championship game, but let's not go too far. They have to go against Georgia. And speaking of which, now we go into the top 10, which does hold Georgia Bulldogs in there. But going first, we'll start at number 10 with Clemson, who dropped all the way down. Washington at number 9. Penn State at number 8. Tennessee, Rocky Top at number 7. And, of course, long gone from their national championship desires this season after beating Bama. And speaking of which, Bama right above them at number 6 in Ohio State. And probably the game of the year, besides obviously that high-scoring game between Bama and Tennessee. Michigan blows out Ohio State in the horseshoe, in Ohio State territory, in a ridiculous fashion to take out Ohio State from not only college football playoffs, but also from the Big Ten championship. So Ohio State loses that, drops down to number 5 in Southern California. And what did I tell you the last episode? Caleb Williams, phenomenal talent, and the Trojans will be in the playoffs. And as of right now today, they are ranked number 4 and eligible for the college football playoffs. At number 4, and TCU, because of the loss of Ohio State, they do move up, as well as Michigan. TCU ends up moving to number 3, Michigan to number 2, and the Georgia Bulldogs staying at number 1. Now, Jonka, out of all those teams that we mentioned, 1 through 25, which team do you say impressed you the most in college football last week?
Impressed me. That's a toughie.
A lot of upsets, a lot of big games.
I guess it would have to be Michigan.
Yes,
but my prediction was before the updates came out was because I had Ohio State at 4, and TCU at 3
Hmm.
because it was Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, then TCU. And then since Michigan beat Ohio State, they would either flip or Ohio State would go to 4th
Right.
because there was either two. It was a 2-3 situation. Man, but to put Ohio State to 5th. Now, what I want to know is, does this committee actually believe that Ohio State is lower than USC?
I mean,
Let's be honest here.
like, I think Ohio State, because I obviously was always a big, like, doubter of Michigan. I'm not a huge fan of Michigan football. I don't really think that they're, usually the ones that are above Ohio State, right? Ohio State usually the top of that conference, usually always going out to the national championship. But I think Michigan, I mean, 2 times in a row, they're going to the Big Ten championship, right? They're going to, as it stands right now, unless something crazy happens against Purdue in the Big Ten championship on December 3rd, I think. I don't think Michigan messes up. I think Michigan goes 2 times straight to the college football playoffs. So to see Ohio State now kind of on the downside of things against, those guys up north, it's kind of weird, man. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't think the committee can ignore it. I think the committee's looking at it right now and saying, if we have Alabama at the moment not in the playoffs, and then we try to do something with Ohio State, it's gonna cause a fire around the world. It's probably gonna make people just burn their bridges because I'm pretty sure everyone wants to see a TCU versus Michigan game in the playoffs. Lord, who knows how that world looks like. That looks like something out of EA Sports. But I think the committee does I think it stands strong. I really do think it stands strong. The only team that I would say that it's safe right now, if they did lose in their conference championship, is probably Georgia. I feel like even if they lost that game against LSU, they would still stay there. But, I mean, let's say Michigan does lose that game against Purdue, right? Do we think that they'll put Bama over Ohio State? Do we think they'll put any other team above Ohio State? I think they do. I personally do. I think there's at least 4 teams out there that they'll put over.
Purdue, you said?
Yeah. It'll be Michigan versus Purdue for the Big Ten championship title game. So, I mean, doubt they'll end up winning that one.
Does Alabama play a game or no?
Unfortunately,
no.
Well, depends who you ask, but they do not play for the SEC championship. That SEC championship, LSU versus Georgia.
Yeah, so I say, like what you said, if Michigan loses to Purdue, I think if you're gonna play the same game here and kick out Ohio State, then Michigan has to come off.
Yes, of course. However, for who though?
I would have to say the next runner up. It would have to be back Ohio State back in.
No, it can't be Ohio State. I mean because Ohio State right now, they're 5th.
Because if you put Alabama, which they're 10-2, Ohio State is 11-1, and they did lose to Michigan.
Yeah,
but Michigan lost, so that's true.
I don't know because if Michigan loses out, that means because still it also means that Michigan is better than Ohio State. So do you put a lesser team above Michigan or a team that hasn't challenged either of the opponents? That's the thing. Don't get me wrong, being number 5, I'm pretty sure that automatically should push things. But I think the committee would probably put Bama over Ohio State. I just have that feeling. I just feel like from the games they've had, again, 10-2 record. But those losses, they could have easily been wins. The last time they went off against an SEC opponent, they pretty much dominated pretty well. But however, the games against LSU, which are top 10 teams, overtime loss, LSU goes for 2. That could have gone the other way. They talk about Tennessee and Rocky Top. That could have gone completely different if he ended up missing off that field goal and the game could have continued on. I think that, in my honest opinion, and again, Ohio State, phenomenal program over there. They do lose against Michigan, but in a blowout fashion. Alabama has 2 losses against top 10 teams, and they're like close. Excuse me. Close. And I mean by a thread. So could you really punish Bama for not being able to make it with a Heisman winner in Bryce Young in games that were probably games of the century for a lot of those? I mean, that's probably the best game we've seen out of Tennessee in a long time. They're one against Bama. The LSU game, that was entertainment. Like, I haven't seen LSU been that entertaining since 2019, since Joe Burrow. So do you really take away Bama's season and those tough losses just because Michigan drops back? That's what I'm saying. I don't think the committee. I think the committee might push away a little bit for the SEC. I'm just saying.
I need to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do I hear you defending Alabama?
I'm not defending Alabama. I'm not defending Alabama. I'm just saying. If I'm the committee, I'm looking at the losses more than just the overall record and the rankings. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen,
hate to defend Bama. Definitely never defending Florida State. But either way, I think they deserve some credit.
Change in the world, in our worlds,
Mm-hmm.
we need Alabama out of the playoffs.
That is true. That's why we're going to hope for Michigan to win that one.
Because if they somehow make the effing playoffs, I will say that these college football playoff committee, whatever they call themselves,
right,
rigged.
Absolutely rigged.
Because if Alabama makes the college playoffs again,
right,
that will influence recruits saying, "Oh, bro, even if like they have a bad season, they're still in. Why not just go to Alabama?" Like, nah.
Yeah.
Listen, we keep Alabama out. If Michigan loses, which I don't expect that to happen, but if Michigan loses, I'm putting Ohio State in. That's it.
That's it. So Buckeyes still have a chance.
Either put Ohio State in or bring down Michigan to 4th.
I like that better. I don't know. I just want to see, because Michigan against Georgia, I think it'll just be a repeat from what we saw last year in the Orange Bowl. I just want to see Michigan go against TCU. I just want to see the Horned Frogs get the best chance to make it to the college football, like just the championship game, just to be there would be insane. Coming out there. And also, actually, let me double check right now from their bowl game in the Big 12.
They play Kansas State.
Kansas State.
Damn.
That'll be an interesting game.
Purple versus purple.
Yeah. Plus, quarterback Martinez out there killing over there in Kansas State. And as weird as it is, I mean, the state of Kansas has actually had a pretty good year in football. I'm not going to lie to you. Besides, obviously, going across to Kansas City for the, Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. College football, Kansas gets a bowl game, the Jayhawks, for the first time since, like, God knows how long. And now Kansas State has a chance for getting a championship. Kind of doubt it for the Big 12 championship game for Kansas State. I wouldn't bet on that money line. I think that's a trap game, though. But, hey, give it up for Kansas. They're doing something big. They're doing something big in that state for football.
I will point out that USC's only loss was to Utah, and they play Utah in that bowl game.
That is true. But I think Utah's had, out of any of the teams out there, I find it weird that the Pac-12 has to be one of the more stronger, like, conferences out there. You know what I mean? We talked about Oregon with Bo Nix, possibly, getting to the playoffs. That didn't work out. Washington State had an insanely good game to end off the year. Then now, what I'm looking at right now, as I mentioned before, Utah number 12, Washington number 9. I mean, the Pac-12 is alive. I think they're kicking. I think a lot of people said they were dead in the water, especially with all the teams that are like leaving, specifically in UCLA as well as Southern Cal going to the Big Ten. But I think they're still alive. I mean, they still got teams that can, still survive without you'll probably have to say two of the biggest, money deals out there, especially in Southern Cal.
Washington, Oregon, Utah, Oregon State, UCLA, Cal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, they're kicking. They're moving. They're moving.
Especially Colorado. They're getting their new head coach.
Yeah, but Colorado, they got like one. They got one win.
Yeah.
If there's any team out there in college football that had the worst possible events that happened, it had to be Colorado, especially football in that state. We're not going to talk about the Denver Broncos, but not the best. But actually, you know what? How about this? Let's go into our NFL update. Let's talk about some NFL stuff. Jonko, what do you want to talk about first in the NFL? You want to go straight Dolphins or straight what you think is on your mind?
You know what? Let's go Dolphins. Why not?
Let's go Dolphins. There we go. So going off to the Dolphins, let me just double check the stats, make sure that I get everything accurate here. They ended up hosting the Houston Texans, right? Supposed to be a give-me game, really, for the Miami. Top in the AFC besides, well, I want to say top in the AFC, top in our division, the AFC East, because we still have to beat out Kansas City for that one. However, Miami definitely looked like the top in the NFL against Houston. We talked about their first half performance. If I'm reading this right, 30 points in the first half of that game, 30-0. And mind you, the defense got a touchdown. So within the first 40 whatever minutes of this game, Miami's defense got a score. Tua was looking phenomenal. You had a touchdown from Smythe, which tight end touchdowns are rare to come by as a Dolphin fan. Now they're everywhere this season. But as weird as it is, the second half wasn't very entertaining at all.
It was bad.
It was bad. Miami allowed 15 points to end off the game itself. We had Skylar Thompson going. That was, I don't know, because I saw him cooking in like the preseason games, and now Skylar is just like a dud. You know what I mean? Like right now, he's looking like a scrub. I'm looking at his stats: 1-5, and he only threw for 6 yards. Blowout game, it may be. The 7th round kid is not ready yet. However, in a game that had no Mostert, so the starting running back was gone. Just look at the stats himself. Wilson, the addition that we got from the 49ers, 39 yards off of 13 carries. Gaskin came in the game as well, 17 yards off of 6 carries. Tyreek Hill was also involved in this one, and Thompson as well, of course. Actually, funny enough, Thompson, 6 carries, was 1 yard shy from tying his passing yards in this game. As weird as that sound, only had 5. But we have 4 rushers, and the receiving yards themselves. A lot of touchdowns out there. A lot of touchdowns. Tyreek Hill didn't have any in this game. However, 85 yards, led with Jalen Waddle, who also had 85 yards. I mentioned about Smythe having a touchdown himself, and the defense having a touchdown with Van Ginkel. But besides that, because stats say one thing, the other part is that Miami was just dominating. It only took one half. So that was a phenomenal game. I mean, Jonka, do you think now, are we confident about the Dolphins? Again, this is just a Houston Texans team that.
All right, here we go. All right. I'm going to say this out of the kindness of my heart.
Right.
I think everybody's on the Dolphins' high horse is because they've played trash the last 4 games. And mediocre if you include the Steelers.
Yes.
Let me just remind everybody that they nearly lost to the Steelers, nearly lost to the Lions, and very much nearly lost to the Bears. And the Dolphins should have obliterated those 3 teams.
But you had to admit, though, there were some crazy stats in that game, though.
Which
in
one?
Those games, at least. Chicago was insane. Justin Fields going all over the field. Detroit's been in some fights, man. They've been in some fights.
Yeah, I know. They're my sleeper.
Yeah. They're crazy.
But hello? Okay. Well, guys, I'm gonna continue talking until we fix the technical issue, but there we go.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My internet was bad, but then again, we keep on going.
Yeah, I was still talking. I was like, okay, so I think Miami should have obliterated those 3 teams, even though they were close. I don't. if you're gonna be the top team, you gotta show me more than that.
Right.
Then they beat the two teams that they're supposed to obliterate, in Texans and Browns. They're playing how they're supposed to be playing, what we expect them to play, right? Now, these are bad teams. I want to see a quality win. Because we've seen when it comes to tougher teams, they play, I don't know how you say, it's a tougher game for them.
Right.
We saw with the Ravens, they made a ridiculous comeback, but they were down by literally like 4 touchdowns.
No, yeah. I mean, it's been a miraculous season so far. But I understand what you're saying. Like, it's got to be the competition. It's got to be the competition.
The Bills, they beat the Bills by 2. They lost to the Bengals. No, that was a 2 game, but I don't want to count that for them.
Yeah, you can.
But they lost to the Jets, 40-17. They lose to the Vikings.
Yeah.
And then the Steelers, you could give them a good defense. The Dolphins win by 6. So, now the next couple games, the last couple games for the season, the 49ers, good team. Chargers, not bad.
Right.
Bills, always. You can never count the Bills. The Packers, somehow they can come out with a win for some reason. The Patriots actually making a run late.
Right.
And then the Jets, which beat you 40-17 early in the season. Now, what do you think the record will be for this next 6 games? Oh, yeah, 6 games.
The next 6 games. And the thing about these next 6 games, they're already against division opponents, obviously. The majority of them on the road.
2, 3, yeah.
So we're talking about a game against the Patriots on the road. We're talking about the Bills on the road. And then I believe the New York Jets one is going to be ending off the season at home. But at the same time, Packers are looking pretty weak right now. We play them Christmas Day. So I'm thinking win against the Packers, win against the Jets at home. And then one of the 2 games, and I hate this to tell you, Jonka, I think Dolphins win against the Patriots in Foxborough. I think that's 3 wins for the Miami Dolphins there. The other ones, yeah. The other ones, I just can't put my finger on those other ones. I think winning against Buffalo in, their house, it's never a guarantee at all. And if it is, it's definitely going to be a tough matchup. We saw what the Vikings did when they went over there and basically won off of a defensive miracle, getting a touchdown off a fumble. But I think the Dolphins at least get 3 more wins out of the season. At least 3 more wins.
3 more wins, and it's against 2 division rivals and the Packers, you said?
Yep.
So you have them losing to the Niners, Bills, and Chargers?
I think that because I mentioned before, those are probably my guarantee wins. Hate to say it like that. But, I mean, I think the Chargers, kind of a weak team that should be a win. But the 49ers, I think Jimmy G and that team is starting to pull, the wheels, make them go a little bit. So I think the 49ers are, full steam going to Miami or whatever it is. And they'll probably win that one. And then the Bills game, I mean, that's going to have to be Tua's got to play the best game of his career for that one, in my honest opinion. That's got to be a shootout. No one expected Tua to shoot when he throws that.
Big game on Thursday, Bills and Patriots.
That is a big one.
If the Patriots can win that game, I think they would be 1 game behind Buffalo.
Yeah. So, I mean, things are shaking up right now in the AFC East. But because we're almost out of here, I want to talk about some things around the NFL. But let's talk about Thanksgiving. And again, I always mention this, a Thanksgiving holiday is not a holiday without NFL football. Now, we had a lot of games. We mentioned before, we're talking about the Bills. The Bills survived in Detroit in a close one there. The Dallas Cowboys win against their division rivals in the Giants in a division over there in the NFC East that has probably been the most dominant division in all of football right now, besides the AFC East, which we were talking about. And then, of course, the Pats-Vikings game But let's first talk about, since Danny's not here, we still got to talk about it though. And I feel like it's right to talk about them first. The Dallas Cowboys
Mm-hmm.
getting a Thanksgiving victory with Dak Prescott. And, Dak, he had a pretty good game of his own. If we look at the stats right now, only missed 9 opportunities for throws. He was 21 to 30 in completions, and then 2 touchdowns, 261 yards. However, 2 interceptions. But despite the fact Dallas was moving in stride, and Zeke, I think Zeke had probably one of his better games of the season, 92 yards in this one with a touchdown. And the Giants themselves, when I was watching this game, I Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, it was pretty consistent here and there, but
Well,
obviously it just wasn't enough. I think that the running game was a little bit poor too. Saquon Barkley was not having a good time there with 39 yards. He did have a touchdown, however, but I felt like the Giants' offense wasn't really moving as well. I thought the defense really put them into that game, but the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, right now, 8-3 record. They still got to figure out how to get over the Eagles by the end of this year if they really look to host a game in Dallas. But great, phenomenal win for them. I mean, Jonka, out of all the Thanksgiving games, which game did you think was one that was eye candy, one that you had to see?
what? Trying to see which one were the Thanksgiving games.
As I mentioned before, Vikings against Patriots, and then the Bills against Detroit, in a close one too. That one I was really surprised about that game.
That's true. That one was good. Um, I can't say the Patriots one because we lost.
Right.
But
Then again, it's a good game.
I guess I'm gonna have to say the Cowboys game. Yeah,
Cowboys game also for you.
but I just feel like for the Cowboys they did what they were supposed to do, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they didn't play to the standard of what we thought they were gonna play. I thought we were all expecting a blowout, right?
Right.
But I think
Well, I mean,
the Giants,
yeah, I mean, because the thing is though, like you expect them to win against New York, right? I know
yeah,
the Giants are on a good tear this season.
at home,
Yeah, at home specifically. But you do expect them, Dallas, playing at home, Thanksgiving. And also, if we're going a little bit off topic here, the Dallas Cowboys is like their uniform clean. That
yeah.
Thanksgiving uniform, it was like the all white helmet, the old fashioned star on the side. The jerseys looked incredible. I wish I saw Tony Romo in that thing. I mean, if I had a Tony Romo long sleeve with that jersey and helmet, it would have been beautiful. But I mean, besides that, going back on topic here, we're expecting them to win. I don't know if we could say blowout though. It could have been a blowout if it wasn't for some mistakes here and there from Dak. But besides that, I mean, I think the Cowboys did exactly what they needed to do.
The same reason I was saying that I think Odell needs to go to the Giants
Mm-hmm.
because they need a receiving core. I feel like if Danny Dimes he's playing way better. He's really improved. If he can get some wide receivers, I think they can be a really good team. Especially this defense is playing actually way better than they were in the past.
Yeah, I mean, not even
It's,
that. I mean, because they also lost Tony to Kansas City, so they needed
yeah,
to replace that.
exactly.
They didn't replace that somehow.
I no shot at the Cowboys, no shot.
Okay.
But the way they kept this game in like very close, I feel like if the Giants had a receiving core or like a decent one, I think the Giants pull this out and they win it because the way it was flowing is that the Giants just couldn't go down the field.
Yeah, that is true, especially in the running game.
Exactly, and then if you can't pass, you're gonna have to run it, and then if you can't run it,
Can't do much.
you can't do much. So the Cowboys, I think they just like wanted it to be a long game, and then just like little by little, they just chip at you, and then they won the game.
Yeah. But either way, so talk about Thanksgiving games. Obviously, the Cowboys game, one of the bigger ones, but a lot of entertainment out there in the NFL. The Dolphins, obviously, as we talked about before, dominated their game in the first half, looked really suspect in the second half, despite having a 7th round quarterback in there. But either way, Miami sports goes on. Messi might be part of the Herons next year. Tua looks phenomenal. The Canes, hopefully they get a little bit better recruitment for next season. And
Canes
again,
basketball.
hopefully, and basketball. You can't forget about basketball. We'll talk about more about hopefully next podcast about the Canes basketball there. But with that being said, a lot of things are moving forward, and we hope to talk about more of that in our next episode next Monday. Don't forget, every single Monday, 9 p.m., we're always on air, always on the air, rain or shine. But with that being said, we're going to end it off here, and we hope you guys have a great week, and we hope that you have a better tomorrow. Again, Jonka, Brandon, hope you guys have a good one.
Support the troops.